Welcome, everyone, to Dungeon Talks. I believe this is episode 9. Today with me, I have Karudi and the Doom of the Village of the Mists one-shot from this past weekend, Rit and Geigen, respectively. Hi.
Hello.
These are new faces to this show. And you're going to be back because both of you are going to be in the new Monday night campaign, which we're going to be streaming exclusively on YouTube, maybe Facebook, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
I'm
excited.
Gonna be
a lot of fun. But you'll be able to catch all of those things right here on the Dungeon Nytes YouTube channel. The stream will be on the Dungeon Nytes YouTube channel, so you will see Rit and Geigen along with Mimi and Magic and myself some more as we rotate people between both the Saturday night and Monday night campaigns. So this past weekend, though, we did a one-shot called Doom in the Village of Mists that was run by Geigen, that was conceived by Geigen, all for for you and from you guys as the community for raising over $500. We actually raised $700 that night, but it was the $500 milestone for the Extra Life for Kids fundraiser. So GG's, you guys did it. We have one more coming from our friend Cataract here at some point in the future. But it was a lot of fun. So I'm just going to open it up. Geigen, I know you said it's been a little bit. How was it for you crafting a one-shot?
One-shots are always really fun to craft because there's always, you start doing them and then it's like, I want to add so much to them. But then if you do that, it just flows into a full campaign.
We're going to... Good.
I literally could turn that into a full campaign. I have so many freaking ideas. It's crazy.
It felt like it.
Yeah, it definitely was one of those things where I felt like I was playing the first session of a campaign and not a one-shot. Like,
yeah,
straight up.
Agreed. Well, I mean, it was my first session in general, so I really can't compare. But that's what it felt like. I felt like we were going to continue this story forever, and yes. I was into it.
Yeah, it definitely had a really good kind of feel and pacing to it. Which was good, but that was going to be my next question. We'll come back to that because I've got so many more questions for you as a DM. Don't worry. But yeah, Rit, how was playing your first session of D&D like ever?
Yeah, no, it was fun. So I mean, the closest I've kind of got to it is people who didn't know how to play D&D and playing with them. So this was the first session where I actually had to roll for initiative and perception and all these different things, and I kind of knew a little bit of it going into it because of watching obviously your sessions and other people play, but it was interesting because I actually had to think to myself like, oh, should I actually roll for this or do this? But I think the perspective or the part of it I liked the most was the role playing, because I mean it was just super exciting. I mean it kind of got me back to my thespian roots.
The thespian roots? Well, now we have to pull on that thread. What are the thespian roots?
So, I mean, I was thinking about this before the show where I realized I have a face for radio and I have a voice like Fiona in Shrek when she's singing to the bird. And my sister would always get like the lead roles when we were in theater as a kid. And so I realized like for me, acting really wasn't where I wanted to go, but I've always really enjoyed telling stories. I do it when I draw, I do it when I write and, throw it in the trash afterwards. And so I was able to kind of take all that together that I really loved doing, but just wasn't very good at, and sort of come into a place where I felt more comfortable because I wasn't trying to learn a script. I was just playing a character and I was doing it with people who were like encouraging me and supporting me, as well as just like inspiring me. So it was really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a lot of all of those things come together where so much was just improv, right? And it's a weird kind of improv because it's not like you're given a topic and it's like, all right, we'll just improv on this topic. Like you literally have this whole character, this whole backstory. I tried to explain it to my mom once and I was like, it's almost like a mini soap opera. Like you literally have like these weekly kind of episodes where you kind of embrace this character, and it's not about having the best acting. It's just about telling a fun story. And I think that's why people connect with it a lot. So yeah, Geigen, you, sir, knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. That being said, how did you approach crafting this one shot because I have now created 2 one-shots and I am severely less experienced in all of this than you do. But my basic plan was I took the plot and I basically created bullet points. And I kind of used those bullet points and I knew that we had like roughly like 3 to 4 hours and said, okay, well, like I need to make these bullet points line up. And so I'm constantly looking back and forth to make sure that we're kind of on track. How do you make a one shot? Because that was how my brain just like analytically chose to do it. I feel like you completely went about it a different way.
So I literally just decided, like, I tried to think of what I wanted to have your final fight be like and against what. So I created that first, and then I started working my way backwards, trying to figure out, okay, so you have these guys you want to fight. Why are you fighting them? What did they do? So then I worked on that, and then I kept going backwards all the way to the beginning until I got it together. I definitely had a lot more planned than what we did, but that's also because we started a little late, got a little sidetracked with the salty dog, but I had fun with that. That was totally not planned at all, the salty dog, so that was just random. That was fun.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I see that. I was wondering because that totally felt like it was meant to be there, but maybe not quite in that same way.
Mm-hmm.
So the salty dog was in the story, like you could stop there, but I wasn't planning on it to actually be there. It's more like, hey, she stopped there and then she left, so she probably got out of the city already. Let's go.
We had a junior investigator.
Listen, you got Sherlock Failor. He's retracing the steps. That's all he knows how to do. She was there. We're going now. Leaving. Bye. See now why you're a junior investigator. So much fun. But no, so like what you said, we kind of got sidetracked. How much again I guess to say, when you do the one shot, like how did you approach it? Did you like literally just get lost in all the fun and just forget what time it was? Is that what happened?
For that, I got lost in the RP a lot for the beginning because like I had planned how you guys got to that other part of the village completely differently. Like you were going to enter a dream within a dream, and that's where you were going to find out, hey, this is actually really creepy. But I kind of just skipped that part and just had you guys go into the dream and with the mist instead of actually doing the dream within the dream.
Yeah, we definitely rushed through a bunch at the end, and like it didn't feel bad, but we know that we did because we were like, it wasn't because it was bad. It was just that we were so tired because we crushed so much RP already.
3 a.m. I think for some of you guys by the time we ended.
It was early, I think.
It was okay. I had to go to work in 2 hours.
Yeah, so I think the interesting part for me was like the missed part of it almost felt like the climax of the session. Like if you would have told us that like us like beating the runes basically and completing them were essentially what caused the village to come back from the mist and like we were able to find the girl and like she was just knocked out or like whatever and found like village people that were transport or whatever because of the mist, like, and that would have been the one shot, I totally would have been great. Like I would have been satisfied 100% because there was so much tension in that, like not knowing what the hell the mist was and having to work together to beat the mist
and not having anybody with any type of real magic. I think that was just such a fun play of trying to figure out what little things we have as a team, especially because we didn't know each other. So it's like, well, what do you have? What do you have? And, kind of trying to figure that out together was really fun.
So I'm not going to lie. I kind of cheated a little bit as a DM. So I know Knight was looking for certain items to use that because I said you guys could have 2 uncommon items. Sure. So I kind of recommended 2 that would work well for the story.
Yeah, I know. And I like I didn't know. You're like, you should look into this lantern of revealing in this dagger of warning. Yeah, those sound awesome for an investigator to have. Let me put those in my bag, good sir.
Because if you guys actually...
Fiery sword.
Fiery swords work.
I just want a fiery sword.
But no, if we actually went through, like, if I actually had this village how I planned it, where if you guys ever went to sleep for any reason, you went to stay at the end, there was actually a NPC that was going to try to kidnap at least one of you. So the Dagger of Warning would have helped.
No. I like the lady beating the blanket. I don't know.
Blind lady. She was awesome.
So I actually had a table for that I rolled on. That's why I rolled a D100. I had a bunch of different things that could randomly happen. It just happened to be the crazy old blind lady.
It was fun.
I approve.
She felt really like connected to my character, who was ready to just take fists and beat everybody. So it was like, oh yeah, that lady, that's me in the future. I'm down to hang out with this blind lady. See myself 20 years from now.
So, Rit, how did you come up with your character? I mean, I know the answer, but for everybody
You know
else,
the answer.
how did you come up with your character?
So actually, I really wanted, since it was a one-shot, to kind of already have a story, not necessarily their background, but kind of a character type. So Lucifer, if anybody is familiar, is a TV series now on Netflix. And there's a character who's a demon, and her name is Maze. And I just really wanted to embody her because she's this like kick-butt lady who doesn't really care about anybody except, you know, Lucifer, but she kicks butt, takes names, and she's a bounty hunter. And I thought that was kind of perfect for the basis we knew of the story, which was that somebody was missing. So it was kind of like, is she missing, or do we kick the butt of her? Do we kick the butt of the person who stole her? Like, so that was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was it's a very sassy character. So, Guy,
like
how did the characters that we came with play into kind of your grand design? Were you pleasantly surprised with what everybody picked, or were you like, oh?
I was pleasantly surprised. I was a little worried about the two tieflings because they had very similar anger issues. And
they were different.
They were different, but they took it out on poor Diedrich at start. But then Hope started like really protecting poor little Diedrich.
Poor Diedrich.
He was not innocent. He was guilty.
Guilty.
He was in on it. I know he was.
Was he supposed to play a bigger part? Because I know we kind of knocked him out. I felt guilty because I'm like, usually, you know, if you create a character as a DM, they're going to play something pivotal later. And we just kind of like got rid of them halfway through.
So he was going to play some important parts. Like if you guys actually did the whole dream within a dream, he was going to be the very first one to literally die. And so you'd see the first message from his dead body.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then after that, he'd played more parts, but it was fine. You tied him up, and he kind of just didn't do nothing else after that.
We saved him.
Yeah, I was like, we can't just let him run off. Like, if he's bolting, he's either bolting because he's guilty or he's bolting because he's chicken. Either way, we can't have that. I was happy you were able to chase him down.
Yeah, that was fun. That was like, I really wanted a reason to use the whip. So the fact that I actually, because it was one of the items that I took, and I'm like, when would I actually use a whip? So the fact that I was able to go and like, you know, grab them with it was just one of those like perfect cartoon moments for me in the reality of D&D.
Yeah.
Then you guys hogtied him.
And strung him up in a tree.
Yeah, put him in a tree. Because that was the kind of character I was playing.
No, I honestly, I think that it was good. One of the hardest things to understand, and I know you've watched a good bit of D&D, but like, I think one of the hardest things from a new player perspective, and I still very much put myself in that category, is understanding that the only limits to what you can do are the limits of your imagination. So it's like, I felt like you did a good job of not asking, just kind of doing. And I think that's a hard thing to learn as a player sometimes, or at least for some people. Where you're like, can I do this? Yes. Like, you're like, I'm going to use my whip. Yes, you're going to use your whip. And you're like, okay, I'm using whip. Like, you just do. And you let the DM say yay or nay, right? I'm not going to lie, dude. You had me stumped. I had no idea what the hell to do. with anything. I was like, what do we do?
Yeah, the mist, I was definitely feeling like, what can I even do? This doesn't really like sit with my character. And she's not somebody who's usually gonna work with other people. So it's like, what do? I just kind of have to force people to try to figure out what they can do. So that was interesting. But I liked when we all fell asleep and woke up, because I kind of definitely felt like it was gonna be a dream within a dream, or that we were already dead, because I know you kind of mentioned you're gonna kill us all anyway. So it was interesting that you changed it, but it is kind of cool to know that sort of that original feel is where you were going.
Yeah, so I've actually done a similar story before in a full campaign, and for that, the players literally find out that later they were actually 4 amnesia characters in the past. Like, all the NPCs literally tell them that, hey, you guys are the 4 people that lost their memories, and they don't realize it. So they go through an adventure trying to get back their memories to figure out who they actually were. Because they have all these other memories.
So what would have happened if we would have just given in to the mist?
Probably would have went to the dream within a dream. You would have met a really creepy monster that would have been chasing you throughout the mist, and you'd just wake up in it. And if you tried to fight him, he would literally kill you. You'd have no chance. And then
the story ended up much happier.
Well, it'd be a dream within a dream. So every time one of you would die, your body would possibly be thrown out of the mist, arms flinging in different directions, blood splattering, and then you'd see a message on the ground if you looked, and it might say, like, wake. And the next one might be, wake, save up. And then finally you'd just start hearing, if the person actually reads the last message, they just start hearing this voice, which is Kartrana, telling you to wake up and save her.
See, yeah, because I took the hint. See, for me, I was taking hints that we could fight back against the mist.
You could.
And that's why I kind of continued to push. But part of me was like, are we supposed to just give in to the mist? Because it feels like we can't fight it. And then all of a sudden it was like, spirit guardians, okay, bless, okay. Like, all right, okay, I guess we're supposed to work our way through the mist. And here we go. Get to the big rock. And then the rock happened, and I was like, well...
Now
so,
what?
So yeah, eventually you were always going to give in.
Right.
Eventually you were always going to give in, but the thing was, how far you went, you could learn more hints and more clues that would help you once you got inside the village.
Fair enough. Yeah, it was interesting. I know we haven't talked about the other characters yet, but I think a lot of us were having a lot of fun with Miros.
Miros was amazing. So anybody who hadn't watched it, which you should do that on YouTube, Dungeon Nytes, watch it here. Miros was just so much fun with his like deadpan fascination with dead people. And the way he actually like portrayed himself really just won me over. And I think it kind of actually made the campaign for me. Like, everything was really fun, but that little piece for me was just like, this is what it's like to play D&D. You know what I mean?
Yeah, being able to interact with other people. 100%.
Somebody who just always wants to see if people are alive or dead. But then he started questioning me, and I was like, dude, you're obsessed with death. And he's all, why are you hurting these people? They didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like, okay. Obsessed with death, but has some morality to you.
Well, he
good character.
He pointed out that it's when it's the right time. My question is, who decides it's the right time, though? Like, I love the salty dog when you guys first got there, and the guy flies out the window, and he's like, checking the pulse. Oh, still alive.
So good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was good. I mean, I liked the dynamic that Magic's character brought too. This really kind of talkative, eager kind of player, where you had such a good balance where Miros is this heavily invested, but for his own reasons. And then you've got Karudi that's like, I really just want money and to hit things. And then you have Hope who's like, I really just want money, but I'm kind of compassionate towards other people. And then you've got Phalor who's just like, I'm just trying to find the girl. I'm just trying to find the girl. You all are here to help me. I'm trying to find the girl. And all of these things kind of going and playing off each other were just a lot of fun to experience because they were so different.
It was a good mix, and it makes me really excited for the continuous campaign just because I think we just all worked really well together.
Yeah.
And I'm just really, really excited. I was a little scared. I was like, oh, am I going to fit in, like a high schooler in college? Is anybody going to like me? And then once we started, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm home. So it was really fun.
Yeah, a lot of my kind of it was kind of happenstance that this opportunity came upon us, and I was like, I kind of want to do a one shot with the group before, just to make sure, because like I said to you guys when I was kind of, you were kind of inquiring and I was /recruiting for the second campaign, like it's a larger commitment for me because I'm trying to turn this into a long-term, campaign, and it's going to be super duper long and probably last well over a year, if we even get done with it, before then. And so it's just a matter of like saying, hey, is this something that you're willing to do for that long, especially for other people that are content creators and all those different types of things. So in with the Wednesday shows and trying to produce this and make this a bigger kind of deal. So when people are really enthusiastic about like, no, yes, I want to be a part of this, it's just like, it's really heartwarming. But then there's that thought in the back of your head. I'm like, okay, is everybody going to get along? Is everyone going to be okay? Because I've been really fortunate with the Saturday night campaign, because they're just a fantastic group of people. If we have any kind of issues, we can talk through them. Like all of those different kind of mechanics and kind of player dynamics are just really, really, really good with that group. And so, you think about starting up another group and I'm like, oh God, am I asking for it? Am I asking for it? So the idea was, hey, let's have a one shot, see everybody gels and go from there. And so the fact that we got to do that with most of the crew for the game makes me really, really happy.
Agreed. I'm always a little worried about that. But it makes me excited for content creation again, because I had really wanted to get back into it,
Sure.
But I don't think streaming video games is for me. So the fact that I get to do this is like, yeah, I get to create things again.
Well, yeah, I mean, like who doesn't want to have an artist on tap, right? Like being able to create things at your own whim, right? Like, this is me drawing your character, and like you do, right? You're like, I draw my own characters and things. It's just really, really cool to see how all those kind of creative juices get flowing for a lot of different people, right?
I'm so excited to draw all of our characters and start doing stuff. It's just, it's inspiring.
It's a lot of fun. I can't wait. Geigen, are you excited to be a player?
Yes, I am excited to be a player. I don't get to do it that often, sadly.
Forever the DM, never the player.
Sadly.
Except now.
I mean, the only other campaign that I am actually a player on is actually my West Marches one, but I'm also a DM in that campaign, but there's like 6 DMs.
That's a lot of DMs.
I don't get it.
So my West Marches campaign, we literally have 80 players. We have 8 DMs, and literally we basically say, hey, I'm ready to DM this campaign. I can do a session. We're all in the same world, so whatever I DM, it can affect another DM's storyline. So they usually either sit in or like, hey, this is what happened to my campaign, and then they can let that affect their world. So like one time we had bandits attacking in one player's campaign, so I ran with it. Okay, I guess we have a shortage of something in the village, so I decided, hey, the village right now has a shortage of food. So another player team decided, okay, we're going to try to bring in supplies to the village. So they actually started this whole caravan mission.
See, that's pretty cool.
That's a lot.
It sounds like it works out better for you than it did for the new Star Wars trilogy. That's for sure. Sick burns. All right, questions from the audience. One for me. How was it to take a step back and actually step in and play for a bit? Fantastic. The not having to plan a bunch of stuff, the being able to just experience the narrative was great. Although I think the biggest takeaway from me, and this is again just the way that my brain thinks, I was listening and taking in every single bit that I could of Geigen's DM style, because there's so much that I learn from other DMs because I'm new, right? Like again, we go over this all the time. I'm new. I know you guys know that. But like my style continues to get influenced by those that I see do the DM thing. Right? So right now, if I had to say that I'm heavily influenced by any person specific style, it's probably Robert because that's the most D&D that I watch, right? Similarly, I listen to Joe, who's the DM for Dice Shame, because I listen to their podcast and she's phenomenal. And you know, aside from that, some dragons and things. That crew is great. Definitely inspires a lot about like overlays and style and how like flow of game goes. And then there was so much nuance to how Geigen DMs that I picked up on that I really, really enjoyed. And I say nuance, but really it's just experience, right? Like you have this really wonderful way of mixing in NPCs and kind of framing the world and kind of adding in the whole kind of sirenscape sound effects as opposed to just having kind of cinematic music all the time. Like it has a nice delicate balance, and it certainly has informed a lot about things that I really, really enjoyed as a player. And now they make me want to go back and reevaluate as a DM how I do things to make it more fun for all of my players. So that was honestly the biggest impact that it had on me, outside of the fact that, yeah, just being a player is hella fun. The next question was for Rit. How was your experience playing with the crew?
I think I've kind of spoken to this, but I really enjoyed it. And I honestly, while you were taking things from Geigen and kind of learning, I zoned out. I was this character. I was in the, I mean, I was also having like going out of character all the time because it was so funny. Like everything everybody was doing was just making me laugh. But I was just kind of going for it, zoning out, having a blast with everybody. And honestly, I've been craving the next campaign since then. It was so much fun. I can't even explain how exciting it was for me, especially with everything going on like in life. This was the perfect escape.
Yeah, I will not be shy in saying I think if there's one person that has wanted the Monday campaign more than anyone, it's Rit. She's been like, Monday campaign's happening, right? Totally happening.
Big.
Happening. Happening, right? And I'm like, okay, it's finally happening. And question for Geigen. Did you face challenges running a one-shot where there is another regular DM in your group? Oh, that's an interesting question.
So truthfully, I'm used to running campaigns or even one-shots or anything with other DMs. So it wasn't really a challenge. It was just trying to find things that were like something that might be new for a DM. I like to do that at times so I can like be different from them at times. And also we can learn from each other because I do like to grow as a DM as well.
Yeah.
And I know like for my West Marches campaign, since I literally run with 8 DMs, we literally are helping each other grow constantly because I play in one of their campaigns, they play in mine. Or sessions, I mean, because it's all the same campaign. But it's just fun doing that. So it's always interesting because the DM might have like, might have ideas of certain stats that characters you run into might have. So like, let's say if we ever fought zombies, well, you might know the stats for those, so I got to change those up if I did that.
Yeah, that in and of itself, like stats and monsters and things, all in and of themselves are kind of a weird, a weird thing because to me, there's a certain amount when you're focusing more on the RP than you are the game itself. I feel like a lot of that stuff kind of gets lost in the details, right? Like where if you do enough with RP and you focus a good 80-90% on the RP and then the combat is like that 10% that just is the real icing on the cake, so to speak, then it doesn't matter if you're fighting, ghouls and zombies and then, you fought them 2 matches ago and that they have, 20 HP or whatever. It's really just about the fact that you're in an encounter now with these creatures and it's like in the moment, hey, what are we doing with this stuff as opposed to the mechanics of fighting them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I tend to do a little differently with my creatures at times though. Like even if it's like, let's say a basic zombie, they have a set amount of HP.
Sure.
They also have rules on how to actually roll for their HP. Right. So I will do that. I'll change their stats at times. or like, hey, the zombie has one arm, so he can't do this. So I do little things to change them just so it's not like, hey, we fought zombies. I know exactly what to do with this.
Sure, I do similar stuff. Again, less experience with doing that. So typically, what I do is if we get into a fight and it feels like the fight's too easy, then I'll do something else with them. Like I'll either bump bump the HP, or I'll add another wave or something, just to make it a little bit more interesting, depending on what it is. But there's a lot of times too where, if one zombie, again, if we're for example zombies, if they're taking out zombies, or in the latest missions they were taking out ghouls, right? Like there was a couple ghouls and spiders that they're within 1 point of being able to kill. It's just like, and you killed it. Like it, I don't care that you exactly got 26, hit for 26 damage on this thing. If you hit for 24, 25, and I'm thinking about the flow of the game and not wanting to bog it down and go into a whole nother round of combat so we can progress, like that thing's going to die, and it's totally fine.
I totally agree with that. Or like if a character really explains their attack, like what they're going to do, sometimes I'll be like, hey, +2 to attack. His AC is lower than what it should be.
Hell yeah. Give and take in those little moments to try and really make the narrative drive better, because ultimately those are the moments you remember, right? When you got that critical hit and you were able to do those really cool things, which is a lot of fun. So another question for you, Geigen. We all entered his thought on the question for you with having the extension of the question, follow-up question to the DM question. We all interpret the rules a little differently or play differently, which can cause us to knock heads a little bit. At the end of the day, though, you respect the DM and the choices. So that was just your thoughts on that. So yeah, I think we can all agree with that. For me, I was in pure bliss. Like if that's like you said, Rit, like getting lost in the moments that I wasn't playing Phalor, I was like soaking it in. But like, yeah, I was just pure happy mode when we were just going in RP, and it was fun.
Yeah, as coming from kind of not knowing what to do, I tried not to be nervous. I think that's really what it was. I tried to lose myself in the character and know that as a DM, Geigen would respect the fact that I was new, not sit there and try to be like, oh, you're supposed to roll here, or you're supposed to do this. More of like, hey, you probably should, or I can ask whether to do it. And I think it was just such a good first experience that I didn't feel like a new player who didn't know what they were doing. I felt very much like, I was in a little blanket of family who would help make the experience fun and really easy to do without losing myself again to the fact that I didn't know many of the rules.
I think that's one of the cool things about D&D, though, is that fundamentally you can walk into it knowing next to nothing and still have a perfect experience. Just and even if you do ask questions, like you said, as long as you're with a group of people that is going to be respectful and supporting, there's nothing wrong. Like I'm going to say this for everyone out there. If you haven't played D&D because you're scared, don't be. Just play with people that know that you're new and are going to support you, because that was 100%, right? If there was anything to come out of that Rit too, I can't speak for you, Geigen, but like, I know that I was trying to make sure that we were all having a good time first and foremost. Even when Geigen kind of chose to start this out with me specifically, I was like, oh, I didn't realize that I was leading this. I mean, I guess I am position myself as the inspector, so I guess I gotta kind of kick this off. But like, I was really trying hard not to talk so much and not to do those things, right? And to give everyone a chance to kind of contribute those different things. And I think if everyone goes in with that same mindset, which I feel like we did, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that. I tend to really like always having little moments where everybody's character does something where they kind of lead in a way, giving them at least that kind of chance, because everyone's character is the star of the story.
Yep.
We're all creating the story together.
I thought it was awesome when you kidnapped the person in the village.
It was so much fun. I was just like, you know what? This is what this character would do. And I just want to kidnap somebody. And it was just like, you could just do that. I will say, kind of going back to sort of the DM aspect, is I was actually afraid, not for this campaign in particular, but the reason I never got into D&D in general is because I was afraid it was going to be boring. Like I would get the wrong group, because I was always trying to find a group online on like Roll20, or obviously being a woman, frankly. It's a little hard to find people online that that are going to respect you as a woman in a campaign of probably all men. So it is kind of fun that we've got a fun balance of women and men in this campaign, as well as just a fun group of people. Like, I had such a blast, and so now I'm like, I just want to play every night.
Yeah, it honestly, one of the things that I definitely took into consideration was the fact that we are very male heavy in the Saturday night show, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's literally nothing wrong with that at all. Especially since Faded and Cause are husband and wife, so it makes that whole dynamic just way easier to go on. That being said, I definitely wanted to try and have a better mix going into the next campaign, and see if I could just do a better job of balancing that. And ultimately, how that ended up working out with, it's kind of like I know that I'm the DM, but it's a 3-2 balance right now between the 5 of us, and I feel like that's really good. And I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm just checking on time here, and I'm checking for more questions, see if there's anything else in Discord. So, Geigen, what are you looking forward to for Monday nights? And do you have an inkling as to what kind of character you want to be?
I have a few ideas for a type of character, but part of me wants to kind of play a rogue of some kind. I'm not sure. I'm kind of possibly going with like elf rogue of some sort. Not sure. Don't like playing human. I just got bored of that. I don't know why. I'm human in real life. Maybe that's why.
Understandable.
I don't want to play dwarf. I do that too much. Otherwise, I'd talk like a dwarf the whole time. That's the easiest voice to do.
Please do it. I loved it. Just kidding. You don't have to. But it was fun.
I could bring in my halfling, the one that, went to look at the post-it on the notice board.
Also fun.
But no, I'm looking forward to like seeing the Frost Maiden campaign, see how it goes, see what your take on it is, your little homebrew of it as well, and seeing how the party like gets through it, and then what happens after that with the group. Because I think it's going to be a really fun group.
I agree.
Agreed.
Rit, so you say you want to do something different for the Frostbane campaign. Do you have an idea as to kind of where you're leaning at this point?
I have no idea. Part of me wants to try something that feels a little bit more natural, just because it is going to be a really long campaign. And I felt one thing I didn't like about the D&D session was that I felt myself falling out of character a lot. And as a person, I just didn't enjoy that as much. So I think having somebody who kind of reacts the way I react will make it seem a little bit more natural. Just so I'm not sitting here like, hee hee hee, as this like character. And so for me, that's the way I want to go with it. But in terms of like the character themselves, I'm not quite sure what I want to do. I kind of don't. I always lean towards magic when I play games and everything. But as somebody new to D&D, I kind of don't want to have a lot of spells and stuff to worry about. I want to just kind of play. That's why I chose the fighter, because it was going to be pretty basic, just kick butt and, take names.
Yeah.
But I also kind of want the magic, because that's what I have in the heart of hearts for me, as, what I always play.
I think, so here's what I'll tell you on that. I think that one, that's a really good mentality to have. So the first time that was literally my third time playing. It's really only the second character that I've created for myself. And I don't want to say that Phalor was very unlike what I would be like if I was investigating, right? I don't think the point of making these characters is necessarily to make them different from you. I know some people certainly do that. But definitely the first character that I made was Alifor, and he was a Goliath barbarian. But his demeanor was very much my demeanor, and getting into his mindset, making him very similar to how I would be, was, or at least a side of me, was certainly making that a lot easier to handle. That said, I wouldn't necessarily be afraid of being a magic user if you kind of like that, just because we're starting at level 1 and we're going to be progressing through levels, at a reasonable pace, but you're going to have a chance to research your spells. You're going to have a chance to see what they do. And I think that you'll get more comfortable using them as you get going. It's not like we're starting off and you're level 13 and you've got like a million spells that you can use, right? So you've got plenty of time to do that. So if you really want to be a magic user, don't shy away from it. I think that there's plenty of time in between for you to kind of figure out how you really want to play them and what they can do. You know, we have other people that are much more into creating characters and understanding spells, Mr. Mr. Cage, that like go into the meta of how spells affect other spells and abilities and stuff, and like it's amazing to see how much you can actually intertwine those things and play them off each other and play off different abilities and feats and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, my goal as a DM in a campaign is so much just to give you guys a fun experience. It's not about punishing you if you don't use a spell, because to be very fair, I really don't look at the character sheets for my characters in the current campaign. Like what spells they've chosen, what their abilities are. I'm going to start doing that more, but just getting going and telling the story was so much the point of it. And I think especially for being a level 1 character, that's going to be, like I said, it's going to be the main focus for a while too. So you got time. You got time. So Geigen asked this Faded asked this in chat for Geigen. As a DM, how often do you think you shoot from the hip when storytelling and planning?
It really depends. That session, I will say probably, I had the story planned out, but a lot of it ended up being from the hip just because we did get sidetracked with the salty dog. So I added all the characters in there to that. They were not planned at all. And then I had to just modify the story as we went through it. So certain parts of it changed. And it was just like, okay, I'm just having to do this right from the hip. Just come up with improv, try to figure out what I'm going to do real quick. So on a normal session, like, so when I do it with Mage, when I play with that, there has been whole sessions where I've just never planned a thing. And I've just ran the whole session with 100% right from the hip. Just because I knew where they were, I knew the story, I could do it.
I mean, you don't want to lead too much too as a DM, right? Because then it feels like you're being forced into a play. Obviously, there's things you want to do to make sure the story kind of goes where you're wanting it to.
Sure.
But I think what's so fun about D&D is that as a DM, you just really can't guess what the characters are going to do or how they're going to react, how they're going to roll. And that's what's so fun about it, is knowing that, yeah, there may be sort of like an end result or a path you want us to take. But we may get there by doing this or by doing this. And so that's, for me as a player, is what's so exciting, is that, we don't have a DM who's like, oh, shoot, you need to get here. Like, whatever, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best pieces of advice as a DM that I got from the great YouTubes was actually from a number of DMs that kind of make those types of videos, was to plan session by session as opposed to try and plan out a whole campaign, because you never know what your players are going to do. And ultimately, the amount of time that you spend prepping will drive you insane, especially for like a weekly campaign, if you were trying to micromanage everything, right? And you certainly don't want to pigeonhole your players into feeling like they're railroaded, right? There's certainly a narrative that gets woven, and I would say a good 75% of the time the players go thus far where you want them to go, because it's the natural direction for the story to go. It's not wholly sidetracked. But yes, Oracle, like the Neverwinter session, where we're going, we're like, hey, let's go to Thunder Tree. Hey, can we go to Neverwinter first? It's next to Thunder Tree. And my face goes white, and I'm like, I didn't plan anything in Neverwinter. What do you mean? Sure, we can go to Neverwinter. I wonder what it's like there. But you just go with the flow, and that ended up being like an amazing session because it was 100% unplanned and just a lot of fun. So Geigen, what was something aside from the salty dog? Because I know you said we spent more time there than you were anticipating, but what was something that we did that was kind of the fun kind of players are going awry moments from the one shot, if there was one?
So I definitely didn't expect you all to just start freaking out when the mist first came. Like Hope climbing a tree, you guys climbing on top of the carriage, and then I kind of was hoping that when you said you wanted to do an Eldritch blast down, I was kind of hoping you wanted to do it right at the carriage, because then it would have knocked the carriage, and that would have been entertaining. But like that whole scene was very fun. Picking on Diedrich the whole time, definitely wasn't expecting that. Poor Diedrich.
Really?
I didn't expect you guys to pick on him that much.
Have you not ridden on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride? Methinks he knows too much. Like, Diedrich knew a lot of information. How could I not suspect that he was in on this in some way, shape, or form?
You're supposed to suspect him at some point. He's innocent, but you're supposed to suspect him.
Yeah, I'm an inspector. I suspect him immediately for all the things. Everyone is
junior. You're a junior inspector. You have a closet.
Just look, the size of a man's office does not dictate the size of his skill, okay?
That was such a great quirk. The little glasses push up.
That was totally ad hoc too, because I was like, "Are you seriously ripping on me for being junior inspector right now?" Okay, okay. It's fine.
I also did not expect you to kidnap someone and then have this whole dialogue with some random NPC you had to create right then.
Yeah, that's a little what I'm scared of. It's always like just kind of doing really random stuff like that. But I think in video game terms, right? Like I was totally thinking Assassin's Creed. Like what would I do as Ezio? Like I would find some. I was kind of actually worried he would just start screaming and we would be caught or something like that. But I'm kind of happy the way it went, and we got potatoes.
We got John's potatoes. Got him.
2 gold potatoes, but potatoes.
Potatoes. That whole scene was fun. That whole scene was fun. Was so much fun. Like seeing you just kind of like take initiative. You're like, is there someone close enough to kidnap? And you're like, what? And then Mirrors is like, what? Why are you taking people?
Why are you doing this?
He didn't do anything. We're kidnapping innocent people now? It's like, yup. It's called an interrogation, Miros. Get on the level. Question from Shmed. Any disappointment that it's not a continuing campaign?
Yes.
Always.
I agree with that. I think that there was just so much there, and you left it open at the end with the like, I'm gonna kill you, right? Like the whispering wind of the king in yellow, right? Coming for revenge because he wants his sacrifices.
Yeah, truthfully, a lot of one-shots, even though they can technically end there, I tend to leave them open, so just in case, who knows, maybe that'll show up down the road somewhere in some other campaign.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the 2 one-shots that I've done in Theros, both are open to becoming full campaigns, and it's bittersweet, right? Like, you come up with this one-shot plot, and then you just see the potential, and it's like, oh.
And the characters, like, it was just such a fun group. I'm looking forward to our Monday campaign, but honestly, like, I wanted that to continue. It was so much fun.
Yeah, like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I totally decided that I wanted to like write the Adventures of Phalor as like a book series of short stories or something, like Investigator Phalor, and just have it be horrible. Like, I don't know. That's the kind of inspiration that D&D gives you. Like you were saying, Rit, right? Like you kind of get inspired to create and just do all these things, and it's just because the ideas, they just boom, 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 boom. You keep coming.
Sorry, I just had a horrible thought.
No.
Inspector Phalor and Miros as like Watson.
Oh, so good. I kind of like when I'm going into it, I sort of had this idea of like your character and my character sort of being like sort of antagonistically working together depending on the case.
Right.
Like having some background. And so now that we've played, I feel like moving forward, that would be how I would like to see it. It would be like, you know, little one shots here and there depending on the case. And that's what I kind of like about this, because it is cases. So, you know, you could do something here, could do something there. And it's like, oh, it's you again. I guess we're going to work together.
See, but the thing is, though, is that Phalor and Karudi, we're definitely more on the same wavelength than I think they were not. Because
Agreed.
so one of the things that Phalor's kind of character flaw is that to him the law is the law, and he's going to get justice however he needs to get it. And so he's not above. I mean, he certainly has boundaries of methods, but you kidnapping someone for interrogation, it's not like we were hurting the guy. Like, kidnap him, okay, we ask him questions. We don't know what's going on. It's perfectly logical step to take, is to kidnap a local villager, interrogate them, learn about the area, and then if we can come to amicable resolution like we did with purchasing potatoes, then life is peachy, right? Like, it's totally fine. I think that was the thing that was good. If anything, I think that the more antagonistic would have been kind of between Hope. I feel like Hope and Miros were more aligned, and Karudi and Phalor were more aligned. And it was just fun.
Agreed.
Like, seriously,
Like,
why
Miros
just go
is
and
like,
talk to people?
what are you doing?
What are you
And of course,
doing?
Hope too also had that happy personality where she would have just like walked in and found a way to make everybody love her. Like, it was just so great. As a person, I think too, Unicorn just has like a lot of humor, like just built into her like person. And so it was just so fun to see her really embody that character, and just really, honestly, she surprised me, I think, the most in the very beginning of the campaign. Is just how much of a character she just had become, and the whole tripping over the foot and like all these little things. It's like, you've only played one series of campaigns, like you really just embodied this really well and push it along.
No, she did phenomenal. It was a lot of fun. And the fact that she was an assassin.
I love that.
She's like, hey, everybody love me. Like, oh, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for that shoe to drop where she just like stabs somebody in the throat. Like, I was waiting for it, but it never came.
I was sad.
It never came.
Next time. The next case.
I do love how we got a little conflict between Miros and Phalor, though. Like, when you're in the village and you finally start talking to the old lady, and you're just like, I asked her a question.
It's like, oh. Like, yeah, I can ask questions too. Like, yeah, it was fun. It was, again, the party dynamics, like we said in the beginning, they were just so good. We had just really fun characters, and I'm very, very excited to see kind of where all this stuff goes. I know Cataract was like, oh, it makes me want to play in the Monday session too. Trust me, he is not the only person from the Saturday campaign that now wants to play in the Monday campaign. It was like, hey, if you got an extra spot, Monday campaign. And I'm like, we'll have guests. Don't worry. I'll take care of you people. I love you.
I like that though. I think it's fun when you do have different campaigns and or like people, and they do go back and forth between, because as a person you're going to go into a good game, and I think NPCs kind of coming in here and there make it more fun than if you're always just with the same people, because it kind of mixes it up.
100%. And I've seen, again, these are things personally from a DM perspective where I just want to continue to grow and be able to figure out good ways to introduce people for a session or two and allow them to be able to go, right? One of the things that I haven't had to deal with is the death of a party member yet, and how you kind of fill that void and how you go through that process. And I think that hopefully I don't have to deal with that soon. We'll see next Saturday. We've got a dragon attack and we're all empty in the tank on the Saturday session. But the kind of process, I think, of getting people to be guests and do different things, especially with the Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign, because there's a very heavy emphasis, and this isn't a spoiler or anything, but there's a very heavy emphasis in the kind of advertisement of the module that like everyone has secrets, right? Like everyone has secrets. So being able to bring characters in that might have their own secrets and like be able to have them kind of come in for a session or two and either play through, like you said, like a case almost, where they can, kind of either divulge what's going on or not, is a really cool concept to me. But that said, we are pretty much at time. So I just want to say thank you guys so much, Rit and Geigen, for being here. Geigen, thank you so much for organizing that one shot. It was hella fun, man. I cannot wait to have both of you on the Monday campaign starting in November. Again, streaming specifically on this channel on YouTube. If you're checking this out on YouTube, do not forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification to get all the things coming forward. And yeah, if you want to come hang out with us live, it'll be Saturday nights, Monday nights, and then Wednesday nights for Dungeon Talks on twitch.tv/nighttide. So I love your faces, everybody. Thank you so much once again, and we will catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.